Programs also involved the study of black magic. The CIA participated in seances and closely studied other types of occult rituals. Operation Oppen also worked with the top witch, Sybil Leek, in the United States.
Halloween. Well, for most of us, that's an excuse for a party, an excuse to get dressed up and have a good time, the traditional time when spirits walk. But if you believe in witchcraft, then Halloween is one of the most important times of the year. Now, I'm in the heart of the New Forest, a forest that is absolutely steeped in witchcraft. Covens of witches in the forest, each of them with 13 witches, and they all take Halloween very seriously indeed. This is the room of one of them, Mrs. Sybil Leek. She's a housewife and mother. She's 41. She's an antique dealer and a self-confessed witch. Is a white witch. Now that means that she uses her powers for good and not for evil. She says that she could do all the frightening things like sticking pins in effigies and bringing curses down on people's heads, but she doesn't. And yet, basically, the meetings or services or sabbats, as they're called, are exactly the same, whether they're for black or white. And tonight, the witches and the warlocks will be meeting at such a sabbat. What will they be doing and why?
Taking part in just one of the 4 great sabbats which witches have always done for thousands of years. We shall be doing it because Halloween is quite important to us as a religious ceremony. It's a time of the year when the fire of the sun is dwindling, and of course we don't want this to happen. And it is also the time when we ourselves will be feeling a great need to renew the energy of our occult powers within ourselves to carry us through for the rest of the year.
It is the sun goddess that you worship, is it?
No, it is the mother goddess, the goddess of nature, that we worship. But of course, fire is quite important in nature. Being of a fairly high occult order, we in the New Forest don't use so many trappings and rituals as perhaps other covens do, but there are basic things which we all need. That is the sword and various other things.
Are there very many witches about?
Well, I think you would be very, very surprised if you knew how many initiated witches there are in the whole world. And not only that, there's a very great following in witchcraft.
She related all she could about sorcery, black magic, the number of witches and warlocks active in the United States where the most active covens could be found, and more. Sybil Leek was born to a middle-class family in Staffordshire, England. She claimed to have been the descendants of Molly Lay, a woman accused of witchcraft in the 1700s, whose ghost was believed to haunt the town Sybil grew up in. She maintained that her entire family descended from hidden covens throughout England and the continent, and that she had been initiated in many of them by a young age. Sybil believed that she was able to follow her mother's side back to the Irish witches from 1134, and her father's side back to the Tsarist Russians and occultists. She had said that her entire family was interested in astrology and occult practices, with the likes of H.G. Wells and T.E. Lawrence and Aleister Crowley visiting her home. The latter, when Sybil was 16, became a frequent visitor to her house, spending ample amounts of time with her walking around the countryside, instructing her in magic and encouraging her to write poetry. When approached by Operation Oppen, Leek was thrilled and happy to help. During the second or third meeting with Operation Oppen staff, Leek quite out of the blue expressed her firm opinion that the flying saucer mystery was probably somehow linked to the occult. Of course, this sounded alarms with the men from Operation Oppen. There was some who overwhelmingly appalled by the idea of consulting with women whom Aleister Crowley read his poetry and was a self-admitted practicing witch. Certainly, the most significant development came in September of 1972 and Robert Manners when surrounded at her home by eager but apprehensive players in Operation Oppen. Leek entered a trance-like state and reportedly channeled a demonic entity that described itself as Calixum, an evil and negative being who mocked those present and laughed and spat in their faces, and bragged about the way the world was being fooled into believing aliens were among us, when in reality the forces of Lucifer himself were readying themselves for the final confrontation. Manners continued that Coxalicum informed those present that the earth was a farm, that energy derived from the souls of the human race and every living creature on the planet was being harvested to feed demonic entities, and that the ET motif was a tactical maneuver that was being undertaken. Leek died in 1982 when a train derailed near her home and she was exposed to poison gas. Some believe that this was Coxalicum harvesting her soul for revealing him.